Hello everyone. Today we are going to learn another important topic in Microsoft Excel, that is how you can use nested if in Microsoft Excel. And we will also see the common mistakes that usually people do while using the nested if statement in Excel. So I have written the data already here, that this is in my previous lecture I have shown you that this is the data or the response of the students on a survey, and this basically these are the responses of the students on one question, and the responses were basically coded in a form that 5 represents strongly agree, 4 represents agree, 3 represents neutral, 2 represents disagree, and 1 represents strongly agree. So this is just for the single question in a survey, so that you can understand how you can use the nested if statement in Microsoft Excel. So here I have the response of the students on one question. Some students select 5, some selected 3, some selected 4, and so on. And here is the coding of that response in terms like if I want that what this response is representing, I will just code it in terms of text that it is representing strongly agree. So this is by using if statement. So as you know that if statement is used to evaluate only one condition. We have discussed in our previous lecture that if statement will be used only for one statement. So here it has evaluated only the statement F7 is equals to 5. That is, if this cell contains F7, this cell that is the F7, and it contains the 5, then the response should be strongly agree. And if it is not so, the response should be 0. So if I press enter, you can see here that it was 5 here. So it has returned strongly agree. So same is the case for the rest, that it is unable, that the single if statement is basically unable to evaluate the rest of the conditions. So it is for single condition. But when it comes to using the nested if conditions, it is for multiple conditions. How? Let's see. So I'm going to implement the nested if here so that I can evaluate all these conditions. But before that, I have written here the single if statement in front of every response. Like for the 5, the if condition will be if K8 is equals to 5, means this cell is the address of this cell is K8. And if it is equals to 5, it should return strongly agree. If this cell contains 4, it should return agree, and so on. Now I will accumulate all these if statement in single nested if statement. Let's see how you can do that. So for that purpose, what I will do is I will start writing the formula here. It will start with the if statement, but as it is nested if, so you will use multiple if statements here to evaluate multiple conditions. So it will start with the if. Now what is the logical test? Here we have to check this value. So I will select this and I will see whether it is equals to 5. If it is equals to 5, what it should return? It should return strongly agree. So I have written it in the inverted commas because it's a text. Keep this in mind. Sometimes we make a mistake of writing it without any text, so it will not consider it. Then comma and the value if false. So if I write the value if false here, it means that I am ending the if statement here. But in nested if, we have to add another if statement after this for instead of value if false. So I am going to add another statement of if rather than writing the value if false. And again, I will write a logical test. That is, I have to select this cell and I will check whether it is equals to 4. If it is equals to 4, what I have to do, I want this function to return agree. So again, value if, now in this nested if statement, I have written the logical test and the value if true. Now again, I will not write the value if false like 0 or 1. For value if false, I will write another if statement. That is, if this is not true, you have to check another if statement. So I'm going to write another if statement in which I will check again this cell whether it is equals to 3. If it is equals to 3, you have to return neutral. Then again, I'm not going to write value if false. The value if false, this value if false will be replaced by the another if statement. Keep this in mind. In the entire this nested if statement, we will not close the bracket anywhere in between the statement. We have to close it at the end. All the brackets will be closed at the end of this statement. So If, again I have to check whether it is equals to 2 or not. If it is equals to 2, it should return disagree. Again, I have to add another if statement to check the last condition. That is, if this cell contains 1, then it should return strongly disagree. So this is all about the conditions that I mentioned here. Now here sometimes people made a mistake and they start closing these brackets. So keep this in mind. We are not going to close here, but we will add the last statement of value if false. So if it is not equal to any of these values, then what will happen? In such a case, we have to give it the value that will replace all these values if this cell does not contain the required value. So it should return 0 in case it doesn't contain 5, 4, 3, 2 or 1. After this, we have to close all the brackets. Now, another important thing here is I have closed this bracket and it is red in color. It means this is the closing bracket of this bracket. Then I will close another bracket. Now this blue is the closing bracket of this blue bracket. Then I will close another bracket. This is the closing bracket of this purple bracket. Then I will close another bracket. This is the closing bracket of this red bracket. And finally I will close another bracket, and this is the closing bracket of this initial if statement. So this is how you will come to know that how many closing brackets you have to use by using the different colors, by checking the different colors against the closing brackets. You have to compare the opening and closing brackets colors so that you must know how many closing brackets should be there. If you will not if you will not place properly, it will not give you the desired result. So if I press enter, you can see here that it has returned 5. Strongly agree for 5. If I apply this formula on the rest of the cells also, you can see here that it has returned neutral for 3. Yes, it is neutral for 3. Agree for 4. Agree for 4. Disagree for 2. Disagree for 2, and so on. So it has returned the right result. And you can see here that it has returned 0 in the last cell because there was nothing here. So it has just given us the else statement in which I have mentioned 0. That if these conditions are not the ones, then it should return 0. So this is how you can use nested if statement in Microsoft Excel, and you have to be careful regarding the closing brackets, regarding the inverted commas, regarding the how you have to close and regarding the else statement in the formula. So you have to use only one else statement in the entire formula. So this is how it differs from the if, as if statement can only check one and nested if statement can check multiple conditions. Similarly, just like we have discussed if else statement in our previous lecture, which is also doing the same work. So that's all from today's lecture. Thank you.